Hello, Senior Stoner fans. It's the real Senior Stoner back at you. Yes, I'm still here. Today I had the most uncomfortable MRI of my life. Dozens of them over the years. They bolted a plate over my face. It locked me in place. I felt like Frankenstein for, ready, get this, 45 minutes, and then they put me out for 3 seconds, put a needle in me, and they stuck me back in for another 45 minutes. Talk about reigniting my cervical issues. Oh my God, I couldn't even raise my head. I had to use my hand to raise my head. And now, of course, it's back to where I can't put weight on my body. And I'm trying to help myself out here with a Jimmy joint and my jacuzzi. It's very important that after diagnostic devices, after going for these tests that you go for, after you go for a doctor's appointment that might be somewhat stressful, after you drive a long way to go to a doctor's appointment, you must rest. You must find a way. There are two ways I'm talking about. You must rest the mind and you must rest the body. You must rest them both. You all know what I'm talking about. It's critical that you give the body a chance to recuperate and the mind a chance to ease out. Whether it felt like I was dying or I wanted to die, I wanted to stop the thing, I could push the button. I kept telling them I wanted. They said it's not long, not long. The last 15 minutes I actually counted in seconds. What do you think of that one? Made them promise me it was only 15 minutes, and I counted it in seconds. That was pretty hard to do, I gotta tell you. Well, they took a lot out of me. Here I am. Am I a smart person for doing this? Probably should have been here sooner in the day. Probably shouldn't have walked sugar. But you know what you have to do? You have to add up the probablys with what you really did. You understand what I'm saying? I think a lot of us are very, very hard on ourselves. Very hard on ourselves. Look how much effort it takes for someone to go to Los Angeles for a doctor's visit. Look how much effort it takes for a person who lost a limb to go get the mail. Look how much effort it takes to spend an hour and a half under a machine, uncomfortable, bolted in. These are the things we have to do to search for what's wrong. The rub is, I was thinking about it as I was walking, staggering out of the radiology center to my car. Yes, I still drive, believe it or not. To my car, saying to myself, I can't believe I just did that. Because I'm going to tell you something, and you all know what I'm talking about. How many times have you been through a procedure that was painful? Forget the aftermath, okay? Forget the aches and pains you have now. How about the needle going in bad on the IV? Anybody ever have this? Okay? How about a balloon? You know that subdural hematoma thing? Where the needle site is. How about all the soreness afterwards? Okay? Now, how about they're looking at my frickin' face and they don't watch out for my frickin' neck? Okay? So, what you've also got to be cognizant of and make sure you shout it out. Yeah, I wear hearing aids and they tell me it's okay because I don't have them in. Bullshit. They get away with murder because I don't have them in because I can't have real conversations with them. You know what I'm saying? When you're in a magnet room or something like that, or any type of surgical situation, they don't let you bring the hearing aids in. And I unless I'm in the MRI, I've made it mandatory that I'm allowed to wear them. But at what point, this is the point of the discussion, painful procedures, at what point do you say no? I'm not kidding about this. Well, what do you mean, sir, ma'am? You're under anesthesia. Yeah, I get that. But when I wake up, there's going to be a tube in my urethra, and things are going to be worse because I'm going to have surgical pain. Well, but you might have cured that other pain. Well, yes, but like I said, I'm going to have surgical pain. Yes, you will. Okay. So in those situations, you can make a calculated decision, knowing what to expect, talking to your pain management doctor, likely taking the edge off. You're not going to be out of pain, but you can get ahead of it and take the edge off. There's no question about it. Even today, they'll still give you a pump, that you'll handle yourself. But how do you decide on the diagnostic devices? Let's get specific. How about a colonoscopy that we're supposed to have at a certain age, and then every 5 years thereafter? What if it bothers you? What if you have it that as you're waking up, it's awful or something like that, and they tell you it's normal? How about a myelogram? Anybody ever have any one of those lovely babies? Probably the only test I ever had where I really passed out in. I think I actually fainted. How many of you stayed conscious in yours? Myelogram. It's essentially a spinal tap. Okay? So you know what I'm getting at. Some of these are gruesome, but you know what I'm talking about. How do we deal with the diagnostic side of things? Oh, here's a great one. How many of you have had stress tests? Yes, I know, it's tough. They make you run hard, don't they? Trick question. How many of you have had the chemical stress test? You all now are going, whoa, that's pucker factor. How many of you had a chemical stress test? Okay? Let's talk about a test. Let's talk about a test that's painful and uncomfortable and you think you're gonna die. And they admit it is. What do you do? What do you do? You can't have the surgery without it. If they think something's wrong, they definitely want to get those tests. That's the rub out there, everybody. How about this one? How about you live 3 hours away from the best machine where they want you to go? And you're in terrible pain, and you can't drive in a car. Sorry about that. And you can't drive in a car that long. Now what? So it's a real scale. You know how they say the scale of justice, Lady Liberty, the scale of justice. Is there a scale of pain? I don't think so. I know they consider it a thing in the hospitals now. They always ask you the number and everything that you're in. But aren't they still always after the number one thing? Human life, preservation of life. They don't care if you're over there moaning and groaning in the corner in a morphine daze. Maybe, at best, they kept you alive. How much pain does one endure? Okay? How much can you take? You can tell I'm kind of having a difficult day so far, pain-wise. But how much can you take? How much of it should you give up in a diagnostic device, for crying out loud? Look at all you're going to have to save for the surgery or a procedure. Look what they do to you just looking at things. And it's not their fault, the way things are. So it's really a big evaluation. It's even bigger or as big than do you have surgery? Do you have the diagnostic devices done to you? Depending on what it is, I guess. You know, an x-ray at a dentist office isn't that complicated. Colonoscopy is another thing. You know what I mean? A myelogram is different than a back x-ray or an MRI. And an MRI is different than an x-ray. So there's different levels of complexity, different levels of benefit from, I get it, from what you get out of these machines and things. But what of it? Okay? Is it a money grab? Are they looking for the money grab by having us get these tests? Or are these tests something we really need to have? It's a tough choice. So, as we're embarking on these new levels of communication, think about these important things. I think these are the types of topics we need to engage in. How do we stop ourselves from going too far, from saying yes to the doctor too many times? And on the other side, how do we say yes if we've been saying no for a long time? Well, we're going to figure it out together, hopefully. This is the Real Senior Stoner saying, hope you all have a good day. Halfway through that Jimmy, trying to take the edge off. Pushing through. Cheers, everybody.